impress system, but I think she left out the fact that at regular intervals, the petty cashier is reimbursed with the total amount spent. It is very important to always add that bit in there. She knew it. She just wanted to test Mr. Mo and see what I was going to say. She'll get the full mark or half mark. So in this case, Prof. Sandri, you would have gotten a half mark. Okay, so let's quickly digest some few principles governing the preparation of the petty cash book. Okay, so let's note the following. Now, yesterday, I think during the discussions, some of you gave insight into how your parent, as it were, reimburse you with your pocket money as and when it gets finished. And so with the petty cash system or the impress system, the question would tell you the conditions under which the petty cashier should be reimbursed. For some questions too, they are silent, right? If the question is silent, then you reimburse as and when necessary. So reimbursement can be done on the following conditions. So number one, as and when necessary. Now the question is, at what point do you determine that it is necessary for you to do reimbursement? That is when the balance, okay, cannot, the balance on the cash float or the balance of the cash float cannot settle the next expense. Please read this and see if it makes sense and if you can explain to me what this condition will mean. Oh, so I'm waiting. Does it make sense to you, and what meaning do you make out of this? As and when necessary, which means when the balance of the cash float cannot settle the next expense. You can cite an example if you want to explain. Okay, let me do it myself. So at this point, it means that, for example, if your parent gave you 200 cedis, and then you bought textbook 80 cedis, so your balance will be 120, and then you bought exercise books 70, you'll be left with 50. And then your teacher says you should buy a calculator, which is around 190 Ghana cedis. You realize that the balance on your cash float, which is 50 cedis, cannot settle the next expense, which is the calculator. So it is therefore necessary for you to call home and ask for reimbursement before you can pay for the calculator. So that is what I mean by as and when necessary. If at any point the balance on the cash flow cannot pay for the next expense, then you do that. You do the reimbursement. The second one is you can be given the fact that reimbursement is done every fortnight. And I want to believe my professors understand the word fortnight. Fortnight. Is any idea of what that means? Prof. Alexia, fortnight means what? Ouch, I'm not able to hear her very well. Yes. Yes, I can hear you.
Because I said a fortnight is 2 weeks.
Okay, that is true. So a fortnight is 2 weeks, or better still, 14 days, right? So it means that if you are given this condition, when you start spending the money every 2 weeks, you have to call for reimbursement. It doesn't matter whether you have enough balance to continue spending or not. Every 2 weeks, you have to call for reimbursement. Unless maybe after that 2 weeks, the cash float has not been spent, it is still intact, then there will be no need for you to call for reimbursement. But if you have even spent 1 cedi of the 200, when the 2 weeks is up, you have to call for the 1 cedi. Remember, you're always giving back the total you have spent. Okay, so that's every fortnight. Some conditions can also be that the balance on the cash float should not fall below a certain amount. So some parent can say, okay, so if you go to school, make sure your chop money doesn't fall below 20 cedis before you call me, right? So at that point, you monitor it. When it's getting below 20 cedis, you call home for reimbursement. So these are a few things that you have to pay attention to. But for WASI, most of the questions are silent. So it is the first condition that applies. You spend, and then as and when, you know, the money is getting finished and cannot pay for the next expenditure, you do the reimbursement. So let's quickly take one example and see if we can finish it before this session ends. Okay. So in fact, if you check the past questions, this petty cash book, it has been dropped in power. They like it. So my dear, take it very seriously. Okay. I think from 2006 to 2022, it has appeared like not less than 5 times. Okay, let's take this quick one. This is very quick, short. So let's take this quick one. I hope we can do that in 10 minutes. So let me read it. Alabe Enterprise runs an impress system where the cash float is 10,000 naira. The following is the summary of transactions by the petty cashier for the month of June 2007. So you have first check cash for impress 10,000. Then you have on the 2nd to the 30th, they pay stationery, office cleaning, postage stamps, local transport. Okay, local transport, office cleaning, again, stationery, local transport. So you would appreciate that some of the expenses are common and will be grouped under one, heading, right? So as you go to, you see stationery, so you can put all those under stationery. You see postage stamps, office cleaning. However, the examiners are always benevolent to give you the headings for the various expenses. So as you see here, we are given that the expenses should be stationery, transport and travels. Then the leisure account, you remember the leisure column I told you about, which is when you are making payment to any creditor. That's the leisure column. That is what they are referring to as the leisure account. Okay. And then you have office cleaning and postage. So they have given us the headings for the expenses, right? Okay. So let's begin. So the first thing you do, write the name of the business. So we have Alabi Enterprise. And my professors are going to assist me with the first column of the petty cash book. Dear professors, what is the first column of the petty cash? Prof. Frank.
Receipt.
The receipt column. That's good. Petty cash. Hey, I've written petty. Okay, so the first column is the receipts column, followed by the date. Next is Prof. Alexia. The next after the date.
Details.
Details. And then Prof. Sandy will do the next one after the details.
Total.
Exactly. But you guys are awesome. You are awesome. If I had money, I would have dashed all of you $10 billion. Then after the totals, we put in the expenses, right? So here the examiner has made the work easier for us. He has given us the headings for the expenses. If not, we would have gone through to group them so that we can have our expenses. So here we have stationery, we have transport and travels. Then we have the next one, which is the leisure account. Please always put the leisure account at the last column, right? It is better you do it that way. So let's skip that one. Office cleaning. And then we go to postages. And finally, the leisure account. Well, if you bring it within it doesn't matter, but I prefer it's always taken to the last column. Okay. So this is your format. You need to rule your vertical lines and horizontal lines. So let me rule them. So when you get your format intact, the first thing you have to record, the first thing you have to record is your cash float, which is how much you received from the petty cashier as a cash float. That's the first thing you have to record before you begin to spend. So let's do that quickly. So when we read, we're told that the cash float is what? 10,000 naira. And we received that money on the 1st of June 2007. So the date will be 1st June 2007. The details will be cash float. Where do we put the amount? We put it under the receipt, 10,000. So that is how you record the cash float or the receipt. Any question up to this point before I continue? Okay, let me be quick to add that there are some questions you may be given some balance on the interest. So for example, this one, the question could have told us that maybe on the 1st of June, there was a balance of 2,000, right? If that is the case, then you would first show the balance. You know how we show our balance. Balance brought down 2,000. And because the cash float is 10,000, you give the petty cashier the top up of the cash 8,000. Okay. So that always your cash float will be equal to how the interest system is being operated. So watch out for questions where they will give you some balance existing balance on the cash float. Then you work out to know how much cash you are supposed to reimburse the petty cashier at the beginning before you move on to spend. But in this question, there was no balance. We're given the cash float straight away. So 1st June 2007, the cash float is 10,000. So I think we are cool with recording our receipt or cash float. This session is up. Let's rejoin the second session so that we continue the illustration. Thank you, professors. I'm expecting you shortly in the next session.